This is the Kruve Coffee Sifter, and it is designed to perfect your grind. As the tagline says, the perfect grind every time. The Kruve looks like a large guitar pick with 3 levels. It's got the top chamber that you access just by removing the bamboo top. There's a middle chamber, and then there is a bottom chamber that catches all of your fines. The Kruve comes with this handy little instruction book. You can see that there are instructions on how to calibrate your Kruve and your grinder. And then finally, there is a brew guide with all of the suggested sieve sizes for the various brew methods out there. Kruve also comes with a holder, depending on which version you get, for your different sieve sizes. And here are the 12 sieves that come in Sifter 12, which is the name of this model. The sizes go anywhere from 1100 microns, large holes, all the way down to 200 microns, which would be for sifting espresso grinds. And that's about it. That's what comes in the box. So here's how the Kruve works. 3 levels. Once removing the top, number 1, number 2, and number 3. Stacked on top of each other, they make the entire Kruve. So to get started, you want to refer to your instruction booklet and reference the brew method and suggested sieve size. So we're going to do a pour over today in our demo. So we need between 400 and 800 microns as shown right here. So the smaller size goes on the bottom while the larger size goes on the top. So I am looking for 400 and 800 respectively. Here's size 400. There is size 800. So we have our top chamber, and this will use our 800. You want to push around the edges to make sure that the sieve is flush with the compartment. So let's just take a look. There are no gaps. Good. Now we take the middle chamber and add our 400. Again, 400. Check the work. Good. So now, smaller chamber is attached to the 2 larger chambers, and we're ready to calibrate. Okay, so first thing you're going to want to do is grind out 10 grams of coffee. I've already done that. And there's just a look at the ground coffee unsifted. So this, according to my Breville Smart Grinder Pro, is ideal for drip, the range that I have it ground on. And we're gonna see what the Kruve is able to do here. So I've added the coffee to the top chamber, as I just showed you. And now we're gonna shake. You wanna shake for about 30 seconds to a minute. Depends on the brew method and how fine your grinds are. If your coffee is ground more finely, then you're probably gonna have to shake longer. Okay, so let's carefully take this apart. You can see we still have a lot of ground coffee on the top, and you'll notice that there's some on the sides. So, quick tip here. Smack the sides to get off any grounds that are sticking to the sides potentially. Okay, so then I'm just going to set aside the top here, and what I like to do is just remove the top chamber, set it on top of the lid, and see what we're left with in the middle chamber and the bottom chamber. So you can see that the majority of the coffee appears to be in the top chamber. This generally indicates that we need to grind a little bit more finely if we're going to be fully calibrated. So what that means is that we want a little bit more fine in the bottom chamber, but ultimately we want the majority of the ground coffee to be in the middle chamber. So I'm going to adjust the grind here, make it a little bit finer, and then we'll come back and recalibrate. Now you might be wondering, isn't this a waste of coffee? Well, there is one thing you can do with your remaining grounds. So since we're trying to get to actually use the grounds that are in the middle, we can take our boulders or larger particle sizes, and we can just set them aside in something like a mason jar. This is what I do, and then we can just close it off airtight. And now this grind can be used for a different brew method, preferably one that requires a coarser grind, maybe not quite French press, but something like a Chemex or a Kalita wave. So here's a look at the sifted versus unsifted. First, before I tell you which one is which, let's see if you can tell the difference yourself. So we'll start with this left pile here, and that's about as good as my zoom gets. Okay, that's the pile on the left. That's the pile on the right. One more time. So not sure if you were able to tell or not, but the one on the right is the unsifted version. Again, I'm using a Breville Smart Grinder Pro. I've heard from Kruve that EK43s by Mahlkönig, which is basically the industry standard, everybody's favorite grinder, even that has some pretty big inconsistencies. So this is pretty revealing. I think the fact that Kruve is able to give you a consistent grind size could certainly be game changing for the home barista, or any barista for that matter. So since I don't own duplicates of any coffee maker, I thought I would use the Bonavita immersion dripper today, so we can control our brew time by using the locking mechanism at the bottom. And I'll steep the coffee for the same amount of time for both the sifted and unsifted versions, and I'll just brew back to back and tell you which one I like better based on the blind samples. Of course, it won't be perfect, but I'll try and be 100% honest. If anything tips me off, that indicates one is sifted and one isn't sifted. So before I get started here, I've labeled 2 mason jars, one with an S on the bottom for sifted, and then one with a U on the bottom for unsifted. Ultimately, each respective cup of coffee is going to go in these glasses, and then I'll shuffle them around with my eyes closed and see which one I prefer. So let's start with the unsifted version. By the way, I'm using white Chemex filters here. Good filters, so I figured it would be good for this test. So this is just about 20 grams of unsifted coffee. I'm going to use a 15:1 ratio. So we're looking for about 300 grams or milliliters of water. So that's what I'll do right now. And I'm going to start the timer simultaneously. We'll brew for 4 minutes here. Of course, I can't get the pour exactly the same with both cups of coffee, but this will have to do. I'm just trying to take out the variable of the flow rate and make steeping exactly the same. Again, 4 minutes. And I'm using water that is 205 degrees Fahrenheit per the Specialty Coffee Association's recommendations. The 195 to 205 range. I don't always stick to this. Many times I'll just use boiling water. If anything, I think grind size matters way more than water temperature. And just about 300. And that's set at the 1:15 mark, so I'm gonna let this brew for 4 minutes. And then we'll add it to our unsifted cup, set that aside, and then brew again, this time with sifted coffee. So I'm gonna get that set up right now. So as I get my Kruve set up, I've got about 40 grams going into the Kruve because generally at least half is left behind, sifted out. And we're just coming up to the 4 minute mark. I stirred it at the 3 minute 15-second mark. Time to brew. I mean, it was already brewing. Time to drip. All right, here's our sifted or Kruved coffee. I'm gonna again stir at the 3 minute mark just to be consistent here. And again, 300 milliliters or grams of water. Start timer. Okay, 4 minute mark. Let's drip. Okay, so both cups of coffee have cooled for about 5 minutes. I hope the heat of the most recent one doesn't tip me off, but again, this is really the best I can do right now. So I'm going to close my eyes, shuffle, and hope that nothing goes wrong here, and then I will try both. I'm trying really hard not to remember which one is which. I've already forgotten. Do you believe me? Maybe. Maybe not. Okay. My eyes are open. Looks like one of the labels has kind of fallen off. I'll just leave it there. I don't have to look at that. I don't want to look at it. Okay, take a sip of water here. That one was pretty fruity, pretty nice. Okay, this is number 2. Also quite fruity. I would say a little bit heavier on the mouthfeel. Leaves a little bit more astringency. Take a big sip here. Yeah, tastes pretty sour. Okay, and this one again. I think I like this one better. And what do you know? It's unsifted. Now, there's certainly a difference. Let me see if I can explain what it is. This one has more complexity to it. So it's not necessarily that one is way better than the other, but I guess what this informal experiment will tell you is that if you want more complexity in your cup, then maybe you want to go with an unsifted version. If you want more of a thicker mouthfeel, more syrupy, then you would definitely benefit from the Kruve. So does Kruve make a difference in the way the coffee tastes? Absolutely, yes. Is it a positive difference? Well, in this example, it was not, and I do have to do more testing, but over the last few weeks, I have had some anecdotal examples of the Kruve improving my coffee for sure. I can't say that it was super accurate because I would say start by brewing an unsifted cup of coffee, and then later on in the day I would brew a sifted version, and at least in my head I thought that there was a positive difference. But clearly this needs to be investigated more. What I will say is that for espresso, I haven't had the chance to sift to a level that I've actually shown any differences in the espresso. I've actually choked my pressy every time I've tried to sift for espresso, so it definitely is something that takes practice, and you have to try out different sieves, not just what's suggested in the book, because I followed the guidelines in the book, the instruction book that is, and it ended up choking my espresso machine. So lots of experimentation involved for sure. Okay, let's talk pros and cons of the Kruve, what I liked and what I didn't like, and we'll start with what I like. And I'm gonna have to say that this is one of the prettiest pieces of coffee equipment that I own right now. I'm definitely gonna keep it, and I would even say that the looks have kept me to keep at it. I was really frustrated with my first few uses, but I feel like the good looks of this thing and the solid build, I mean, it's all stainless steel and bamboo, so it's really well made, and I think that drew me in to keep at it and basically get good results with it. Another thing I like about it is that it actually lets me brew with methods that I otherwise wouldn't be able to use given my grinder's shortcomings. So I own the Breville Smart Grinder Pro, and for those people that have used it before, they'll know that it just does not grind in any kind of consistent way for coarser grounds. So I was never really able to get much out of my French press or cold brew, at least to the level that I wanted to. Good thing about the Kruve though is that I can extract those coarser grounds and reuse them for French press. If, say, I'm actually going for a pour over grind, then I can just set these aside in a mason jar and use them for later with French press. So it's really good for filtering out different ground levels across various brew methods. The shortcomings of your grinder are not going to matter in terms of inconsistencies. This definitely solves that problem. Now, whether consistent grind matters, which most coffee professionals will say it does, that's going to have to be tested by you. But I think it's a worthy investment because it is one of the most important things. Grind matters. It alters the extraction. So whether it's an even grind or an uneven grind, that's something you're going to have to test out for yourself. What I don't like so much about the Kruve is that it could be messy. When you're taking things apart, it is pretty much inevitable that some grounds are going to spill, especially when you're dumping them directly into your coffee maker. There's also buildup along the sides at times, so you definitely have to operate carefully when you're using the Kruve. And it does take some time to clean these sieves out. I usually just rinse them under the faucet and give them a good scrub down, but it's a little bit messy and some people will not want to mess with it for that reason alone. So that, my friends, is Kruve. Pretty much the most user-friendly coffee sifter on the market right now. And I say that as somebody who has only ever used one coffee sifter, and it goes by the name of Kruve. Still, I think that this is a great value for anybody that has a burr grinder and is looking to take their grind to the next level. Sure, you're going to have to do some experimentation. The learning curve is pretty steep. You've got lots of different sieves to play with. That's assuming that you get the 12 sieve version, but they do come with a 2 sieve version, which is much more affordable. And if you're only making drip coffee or using one brew method, that's who the Kruve 2 sifter version is perfect for. So this is more for the extreme coffee enthusiasts. I started pretty skeptically when I was using the Kruve. I didn't really think it was going to make it in terms of being an everyday tool. But now that I've gotten the hang of it and got a lot of practice with it, it's really meshed well into my morning coffee routine. I'll basically start boiling the water and sifting all at the same time. And by the time I've sifted my coffee, the water has been sufficiently heated. So it's an extra step in the coffee brewing process for me, but it kind of takes place along the way, if you know what I mean. So it's happening simultaneously. I'm just not spending as much time twiddling my thumbs. So definitely not for everyone. If you're just trying to dip your feet into the specialty coffee world and just being a coffee snob, but a modest coffee snob, then Kruve probably isn't for you. It definitely, like I said, takes practice and patience. But again, if you're looking to improve your grind a little bit and do some experimentation with consistency versus inconsistency, then you might want to give this a try. So, as always, leave your comments and questions and even your review of Kruve in the comment section below, and I'll be happy to check those out. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.